Pregnant, unmarried, and barely surviving, I asked my family for help. My brother laughed. My mother said, "You made your bed." So I did night shifts, diapers, and dignity. Years later, they finally met my son. He asked, "Who are they?" I smiled and said, "No one we needed." Then I closed the door. I found out I was pregnant alone. Not in a warm bathroom with soft music playing. Not with a supportive hand in mine or a plan waiting to be set in motion. Just me, fluorescent lights, a dollar store test, and silence. I sat on the toilet lid, hands shaking. Not from fear, from certainty. Somewhere inside, I already knew. No savings. No partner worth calling, no health insurance. I was already behind on rent and eating ramen twice a day. I had no backup plan because I'd never expected to need one, not like this. I stared at the test until the line blurred, then I stared a little longer. The room didn't spin. There was no wave of emotion. Just a slow, cold understanding. It's real. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there thinking about everything I didn't have. No crib, no stroller, no soft place to land. Just a heartbeat that had only ever fought for itself, now suddenly responsible for someone else. I thought of all the things I was supposed to do next. Doctor, insurance, a better job, maybe housing. I didn't move. Because before I did any of that, I knew I had to call my family. I knew what I needed. I just didn't know they'd already decided not to be it. I called my family. Not with confidence. Not with a plan. Just with the raw, desperate hope that maybe they'd show up differently this time. I called my mom first. She answered on the third ring, said my name like a question. I told her straight. No lead up. No drama, just I'm pregnant. There was a pause, then she said, "With who?" Not "Are you okay?" Not "We'll figure this out," just suspicion. Already calculating the damage. I told her it didn't matter, that I needed help, not money, just guidance. Support. A conversation. She exhaled hard into the phone. Then, "I guess we raised you better than this." I said nothing. She said, "You'll have to figure this one out on your own. You made this choice." I told her it wasn't a choice I made lightly. She said, "Well, you made it anyway." Then she hung up. I sat with that for a minute. Then I called my brother. He picked up laughing, said, "Wow, what'd you do this time?" I told him. His laughter didn't stop. My brother laughed. Not the nervous kind, not surprised, not shocked, just mean, immediate, like he'd been waiting for this kind of story to land in his lap. "Of course you did," he said. "You always did love attention." I didn't say anything. I didn't have to, he kept going. "What, you want sympathy now? You want us to pat your head and say poor you? Come on." There was no hesitation, no flicker of concern in his voice. Just that same smirk he always wore when he saw me sink. Like my failures were his favorite form of entertainment. "You seriously think you're cut out for this?" I stayed quiet. "Wow. You really are something," he added, almost impressed by the audacity. I hung up, not in anger, just because I got my answer. He didn't see a woman doing her best with nothing. He saw a mess that proved him right. And in our family, being right was more important than being kind. My mother said, "You made your bed." That was it, not in a yell, not with emotion, just flat, final. Like a sentence she'd rehearsed and waited years to use. I could still hear it hours later, bouncing around in my chest like an echo that wouldn't die. "You made your bed." It followed me into the night. Into the cramped corner of the shelter where I tried to sleep without thinking too loud. Into the nurse's office where I picked up a prenatal vitamin sample pack. Into the mirror where I looked for some trace of the person I used to be before the judgment hit that hard. Every time I wanted to believe she might reach out, might reconsider, those words stopped me cold. Not "I love you," not "How can I help?" Just a punishment wrapped in a proverb. Like being scared and alone was a lesson I had coming. Like needing her made me weak. Like her silence made me strong. She wanted me to feel it. And I did. Every time I lay down, I cried the first night in the shelter, not because I was scared. Not because the sheets were thin, or the walls were loud, or the woman in the bunk below me wouldn't stop coughing. I cried because, deep down, I still hoped they'd call. That someone would text. That my phone would buzz with a name I recognized and a message that said, "Come home. We'll figure it out." But it never lit up. I lay there on a mattress wrapped in plastic, hands on my belly, staring at a ceiling I didn't know, surrounded by strangers who felt kinder than the people who raised me. The silence was the worst part, not the kind that lets you rest. The kind that reminds you just how far you've fallen in their eyes, how unwanted you must be to carry something this big and still be met with nothing. I tried to tell myself I didn't need them, but I did. Not for money, not even for a place to stay. I needed someone to say, "You're not crazy for being scared." No one did. That night, I stopped hoping. And the next morning, I got up anyway. I worked every shift I could get. Didn't matter what it paid. Didn't matter what it was. If someone needed hands, I showed up. If there was a slot no one wanted, I took it. Night shifts, early mornings, double shifts on weekends. I'd take a nap in the break room, then clock right back in. My feet ached. My back screamed. My body swelled in ways I didn't expect, and no one asked if I was okay. I wore compression socks and baggy clothes from the donation bin. I kept a granola bar in my jacket pocket because sometimes that was all I had time to eat. I cleaned offices after people went home to their families. Stocked shelves while customers complained I was in the way. Took orders with a smile even when the baby kicked so hard I had to grip the counter to stay upright. There was no glow, no pregnancy photos, no one throwing me a shower or asking what I needed. But I kept showing up. Because no one else was going to do it for me. And because every hour I survived meant one more day closer to meeting the only person who would ever call me home. I gave birth alone. No one pacing the hallway, no hand to squeeze, no soft voice telling me I was doing great. Just fluorescent lights, hospital sheets, and a nurse with kind eyes who didn't ask too many questions. The pain came fast, the hours crawled. I gritted my teeth through contractions with no one to impress, no one to perform strength for, just me, doing what needed to be done. There was no one waiting with flowers, no balloons, no family photo with tired smiles and messy hair. Just silence when he cried for the first time, then my own voice whispering, "I've got you. I've got you." I held him on my chest, skin to skin, heart to heart, and for the first time in months I felt still. Not safe, not seen, just real. He blinked up at me like I was the only thing that made sense, like I'd been his whole world before he had one. And in that moment he became mine. No one celebrated, but I did. Quietly. Completely, he was everything I never had. Small, warm, blinking like the light was too much. I held him close and made promises no one ever made to me. You are wanted. You are safe. You are not a burden. I didn't care that the blanket was thin or that the onesie was secondhand. I didn't care that the room was sterile or that the nurse looked like she felt sorry for me. Because in my arms, he didn't feel like a mistake. He felt like an answer. I stared at his face until I knew it by heart. Counted his fingers like I was proving something, not to the world, to myself. I had nothing, but I had him, and that would be enough. I wasn't afraid anymore, not because things got easier, but because he gave every hard thing a purpose. I took any job I could find, cleaning houses, stocking shelves, watching other people's kids while mine slept in a stroller next to me. I kept a bottle in one pocket, wipes in the other, and hope somewhere in between. I didn't care about hours. Didn't ask about titles. I showed up early, stayed late, took the shifts no one wanted. Worked through colds, through cramps, through exhaustion so deep I'd forget what day it was. I learned how to stretch $1 until it fed 2 people, how to fix a stroller wheel with a keyring, how to clean a bathroom in under 7 minutes, how to make my voice soft and polite even when someone looked me up and down like I was nothing. There was no room for pride, only rent, only diapers, only survival. People looked at me like they couldn't imagine how I lived like that. But I didn't live like that. I fought like that every single day. My son grew up with love, not luxury, no cable, no car, no brand new clothes. But bedtime stories, every night, warm meals, always, laughter, constant. We lived in a small apartment with peeling paint and floors that creaked, but it was ours. It smelled like rice and cinnamon, not shame. There were toys from thrift stores, books from library sales, crayon drawings taped to every wall. He never asked for more, because he never felt less. We made forts out of blankets, danced to old songs on a borrowed speaker, celebrated birthdays with dollar store candles and cake mix. He called them perfect. He didn't grow up hearing yelling through doors or silence used like punishment. He grew up hearing "I'm proud of you." Hearing I see you. Hearing you matter. There were hard months, tight weeks. Nights I counted coins and cried quietly into my pillow, but he never saw lack. He only saw love, and I made sure he never once had to earn it. I thought about them sometimes, not with longing. Not with anger, just curiosity. Wondered if they ever looked back at the silence they sent me into and felt the weight of it. Wondered if my name ever came up at dinner, or if I stayed erased. I imagined my mother telling someone she just made bad choices. My brother may be saying she always wanted to prove something. I didn't fantasize about reunions. I didn't wish they'd come apologize. I just wondered if they ever regretted turning me away. If they ever replayed the moment I called, scared, honest, and heard themselves not show up. Sometimes I'd pass a family that looked like ours used to and feel something flicker. A ghost of a wish I never said out loud. But it passed. Because the life I built was too full to stay stuck in what-ifs. They didn't want the version of me who needed them, so they never got to meet the one who didn't. Then one day they showed up, just like that. No warning, no message. Just standing on my porch like time hadn't moved, like they hadn't missed years of birthdays, first steps, scraped knees, bedtime songs. Smiles on their faces. Empty hands. Nothing behind them but history they refused to name. My mother wore that same expression she always did, tight-lipped, polite, like this was some awkward misunderstanding we'd all laugh about later. My brother leaned against the rail like he was visiting a neighbor, not the sister he hadn't spoken to since the day she begged for help. I didn't speak. I didn't move. I just opened the door halfway and waited. They looked surprised to see how calm I was, like they expected tears. A breakdown, a soft spot. Instead, they got reality. And the version of me they helped create but never thought they'd have to meet. My son stood behind me, small, curious, quiet, one hand resting on the back of my leg like he could feel the shift in the air. He didn't speak, just looked past me at the strangers on the porch, two people he'd never seen, standing with expectant eyes and practiced smiles. He didn't know them, but he knew me. And he could feel it, that tightness in my shoulders, the way my body shifted slightly in front of his. Protective. Still. He peeked around my side, studying their faces like they were a puzzle he wasn't sure he wanted to solve. No recognition, no warmth, just distance. And something in his posture told me he already understood more than he was supposed to. They said they wanted to reconnect. "We miss you," my mother offered, her voice softer than I remembered, like she thought volume could rewrite the past. "It's been too long." My brother chimed in. "We were just talking about you the other day." They smiled like it was a reunion, like they hadn't stood back and watched me drown, like they hadn't laughed, dismissed, disappeared. "Family is family," she said, as if that settled anything. As if that erased the silence, the blame, the years I raised a child without a single call from either of them. No apology, no ownership, just nostalgia, gently weaponized. I didn't speak. I didn't fill the quiet. Let them sit in it. Let them hear what it sounds like when someone finally stops making it easy to pretend. My brother tried to joke, something about how I always liked dramatic entrances. Then he laughed loud like he thought it would soften the tension, like he didn't hear how it fell flat. No one laughed back, not me, not my son. Not even my mother, who shifted slightly, suddenly unsure. He looked smaller then, not physically, but in presence. Like he realized too late that the power he once had in a room didn't follow him here. He glanced down, cleared his throat, looked away. Because the girl he used to mock wasn't standing in front of him anymore, and the boy behind her didn't even know his name. My son looked up at me, big eyes, small voice. He tugged gently at my shirt and whispered, "Who are they?" Just that, 4 quiet words that held the whole story. I looked at him, really looked. His face open, honest, unshaped by the pain they'd handed me. He didn't ask it with fear. Just curiosity, like he was asking about strangers at the store. I felt it all land at once. The years, the silence, the ache I fought through to build something better. And standing there, between him and them, the answer was suddenly so simple. I didn't hesitate. I smiled and said, "No one we needed." Not sharp, not bitter, just honest. Because it was true, we didn't need people who walked away. We didn't need their approval, their guilt, their explanations that never came. We didn't need them when he was born. We didn't need them when I worked 3 jobs to keep the lights on. We didn't need them when he took his first steps, lost his first tooth, said his first word. We built a life with what we had each other. He nodded, satisfied with the answer, as if I just confirmed what he already felt. And they heard it too. They heard it in the calm of my voice. The finality. The space between us that no amount of pretending could close. My mother's eyes widened. Not at the words. At the woman who said them, like she was looking at someone she didn't recognize, someone she never imagined I'd become. Not bitter. Not broken, just done. She opened her mouth like she might say something, then closed it again. Because what do you say to the daughter you abandoned, standing tall in the home you thought she couldn't build? My brother didn't speak either. The smirk was gone, the joke had shriveled. He looked past me at my son, then down again. They weren't shocked by the truth. They were shocked I had the strength to say it, to choose peace over apology, boundaries over nostalgia, my son over their comfort. They thought they were walking into the past. But the girl they left behind didn't live here anymore. I closed the door. Softly. No slam, no theatrics. Just my hand on the knob, a steady pull, and the quiet click of something finished. They stayed on the porch for a second. I didn't watch them walk away. I didn't need to. That door had stayed open for too many years, through blame, silence, pretending. Not anymore. This time it wasn't about anger. It was about peace and keeping it. I turned around. My son was still there, barefoot, holding a toy in one hand, looking up at me like nothing had changed. Because to him, it hadn't. His world stayed full. Mine did too. And we went back to living. The way we always had, quiet, full, honest. I reheated dinner. He climbed onto the stool at the counter, humming some cartoon song off-key. I laughed. He grinned. The knock at the door became a memory before the plates hit the sink. No big scene, no weight lingering in the air, just us, our rhythm, our warmth, our life. I tucked him in later that night like always. Same story, same blanket, same whispered goodnight. There were no questions about them. No trace of confusion, just sleep, soft and deep. The apartment was still small. The furniture still second-hand. But there were no empty chairs at the table. No ghosts sitting where love should be, no performance, no pretending. We didn't need anything we lost, because we never needed them. And now they know that too. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I love you all.